We're live on Comcast. Live on our website. Stand by for Facebook. Okay, we're live on all our channels.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the October 27th Gallatin City Council Committee meeting. At this time, before we start the meeting, I need to read this from about the electronic meeting. Pursuant to the governor released executive orders number 16, 34, and 51 and 60, and the need to limit the community spread of COVID-19. The October 27th Gallatin City Council meeting will be held by electronic means. The meeting will be live streamed to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the council. If you want to join us on Zoom, there's a link on the screen, or you can dial in at 1-470-250-9358 or 470-381-2552 and enter the webinar that you see there on the screen, number 870-2302-4328. Do I hear a motion to approve this electronic meeting?
Motion approved.
Motion has been made by Councilman Alexander, seconded by Councilwoman Love. Ms. Kitter, will you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Camp. Councilman Alexander.
Yes.
Councilman Fan.
Yes.
Councilman Fennell.
Yes.
Councilman Hayes.
Present.
Councilwoman Love.
Yes.
Councilman Overton.
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Ms. Kitter. This time, if you'll call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Camp.
Present.
Councilman Alexander.
Present.
Councilman Fan.
Here.
Councilman Fennell.
Here.
Councilman Hayes.
Present.
Councilwoman Love.
Here.
Councilman Overton.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. There's no minutes for approval. At this time, we're going to go to public recognition. If there's anybody here in the public that would like to speak, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hincher for a minute and let him explain how this works.
Very good, sir. If you're on your computer or your Zoom app, please use the raise your hand function. If you're on the computer, just mouse over the bottom of your screen and you'll see that button to raise your hand. We've got a few people who've called in. In order to raise your hand there, you'll do *9. That'll raise your hand to be called, and then you'll hit *6 to unmute yourself. I will allow you to talk if you raise your hand, and then you'll have to unmute yourself to get going.
I want to remind all the callers that you have 5 minutes to speak, so please keep your comments to 5 minutes.
And just looking over our names, just making sure no one wants to speak. And I don't see anyone that's raised their hand.
Thank you, Jeff. I'll declare public recognition closed. Mayor's comments.
Oh, I'm unmuted. I'm sorry. I don't have anything except that Halloween is happening this weekend. We've had lots of questions about is Gallatin canceling or are they not? And Halloween is not a government sanctioned event. And so some people will trick or treat, some people will celebrate at home, some people will not celebrate at all. I would just encourage everyone to use caution, be considerate of those around you, wear a mask, find a safe way to hand out candy, and everyone stay healthy and safe and enjoy the holiday or enjoy Halloween. I don't think it's technically a holiday, but
just be considerate to others.
Be considerate of others and what their sensitivities may be surrounding this, and just give everyone their space and follow what they need you to do to help them feel safe. And we want to keep everyone as healthy as we can, because as you know, the COVID numbers are continuing to go up. We're in this for the long haul. We have to find a way to protect ourselves, protect our loved ones, and endure the long haul that is ahead of us. I think I'd also add, since I'm talking about being considerate of others, we've got an election next week, actually happens on the night of the city council meeting. And let's be considerate of our neighbors and realize that not everyone shares the same views that we do, but we can still be good neighbors and disagree and love each other. So I hope everyone will do that. And thanks, as always, to our department heads and our employees for continuing to work through this difficult time, because it's gone on longer than we anticipated, but we can do this and we will get to the other side and we will be better and stronger. So thank you all. That's it.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's move right into the agenda. Item number 1, Mr. Bill McCord.
Hey, before Bill gets started, Bill, you there?
Craig, go ahead.
Bill?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. No, I was just going to say, I'd like to make a motion we defer this. And the reason is because I've talked to Bill a couple times this week. I've sent him some information and he's looking over that. And what he's going to do is he's going to get the information together, put together some more information and get it to us before our next committee meeting in a couple weeks in y'all's packet. And I'd like for y'all to look over everything that we've done. It's stuff I've done and stuff, especially from some of the citizens that have kind of put together too. And if that's okay with everybody, I'd like to make a motion that we defer.
Seconded.
Motion has been made, properly second. Ms. Kittrell, call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Camp,
Aye.
Councilman Alexander,
Yes.
Councilman Fan,
Yes.
Councilman Fennell,
Yes.
Councilman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilwoman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Overton.
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Ms. Kittrell. Item number 2, Mr. Bill McCord.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Make sure I hit the right buttons here. Okay, does everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
Yes.
Good, good, good. Okay, this was an item that we presented 2 weeks ago at a county city council meeting, or council committee meeting. And it was a request by the owners of property at Greensboro Village to change the zoning on a 47-acre parcel of land. And this is kind of an aerial photograph that shows where this is located. It's the southerly portion of the area highlighted here on the aerial map here off of Greenlee Boulevard, just north of Nashville Pike. This is kind of a sketch of a legal description that shows the 47.5 acres. It is wedged between Greenlee Boulevard and the Volunteer State Community College campus, east of the Edison Apartments on the west side of Volunteer State Community College campus. Right now, a portion of the property that's owned by the applicant is already approved for a specific area plan for transit-ready development. And this is a page excerpt from that plan, which indicates the type of development pattern you'll see here in a 3D demonstration that shows how an intense urbanized type of development could be fabricated in this area, including multi-story buildings with multiple uses, primarily residential uses, commercial uses, office uses, things of that sort. But the property that they're asking for rezoning is shown down in the center top portion of the picture, and it was approved in 2007 initially as a large-scale shopping center with big box retail. This next slide is a slide that was put together at the time the Edison Apartments were being considered for moving their density from the south side of Nashville Pike to the north side of Nashville Pike. And the area in yellow is the site of the Edison Apartments that's there now. And directly to the east there where I have my cursor is the big box, I'll call it the big box shopping center is the subject property right now. So they envisioned a typical shopping center, and I think I mentioned this, similar to Glenbrook over in Hendersonville. Over 1 million square feet was approved as part of that zoning. What the applicant wants to do now, they already have vested rights and approval of zoning and a master plan for this northerly portion of the property up on the north end of Greenlee Boulevard, adjacent to the railroad tracks. They want to simply extend and apply that same development pattern type, this village center, to this 47 acres. It's just to the south and adjacent to this property that I described earlier. This is the village center form-based type code that they're promoting, and then they'd like to be able to consider to build. This is indicates multi-story buildings that would accommodate, again, those mixture of uses that I described earlier. The boulevard, which is, in this case, we only have one boulevard, which is Greenlee Boulevard. They envision as tall as the maximum building height along the boulevard would be 8 stories. But keep in mind that this area here contains very little properties that are actually adjacent and eligible for development, because the bulk of the property is adjacent to a creek and drainage way. So that area would be left. So all this area in green would be developed as open space or retained as open space, and include linear parks and things of that sort. So, but the rest of it would be part of the village center that's shown in the brown coloring here, and a typical grid type street pattern that would connect to Ball State College campus potentially. Other parts of development could include 4-story buildings on the interior of those. And this shows how that would be set up. So the higher level street, the taller the buildings, the lower level street, the shorter buildings, including as small as 1-story buildings, typical homes and townhome structures. So you have a couple of renderings on this slide that show you what those might look like once they're developed. This is an architectural design standard that would be applied to the village center. So you can see these multi-story condominium or multifamily, or even possibly apartments, but multifamily is what's being called. And the various types of designs that you see there, typical of an urban transit-oriented development. Again, here's some with porches. In these cases, 2- and 3-story buildings with stoops in some cases. And on the major roads, you might have on the corner lots, you would have some taller, more bulky massed buildings and smaller buildings on the interior. So those are some samples. Included in your agenda package is also a listing of permittable uses within the various types of overlay areas, including the village center, which is shown in the darker brown, the village, which is not part of this zoning request, but is part of the existing in the center and so forth. So there are a lot of permittable uses in that district. They do have a phasing plan. The existing area would be in phase 1, and then phase 2 would be the village edge that's already has the current zoning. And the Greensboro North, which is subject to rezoning, is in phase 3, shown in phase 3. Again, this is a sketch of the area that they would like to, again, it's oriented on transit, and it is a walkable distance. Most of it is considered walkable distance to the transit hub that would be developed years into the future as the development matures. This is a slide that shows the open space areas that would be developed or retained within that specific area plan. So the Planning Commission did review this, and as I mentioned before, had recommended approval. The applicant is attending tonight's meeting and would also like to speak, and might have a presentation of their own.
Hey, Bill.
So applicant here.
Bill.
Yes, April Anderson representing Los Design here.
Hang on 1 second, April, for me. Craig, you need something first?
I was going to ask Bill a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Bill.
Yes.
It's Bill. Oh, question. If we do approve this, and say, you know, we approve it, it gets done, does it come back to the city council before anything's developed or anything like that?
Well, there's been a little bit of development. The new street that connects Little Drive and St. Blaise was built over and connects into the intersection of Enterprise Drive and Greenlee Boulevard. So that little part's been constructed. That's this little loop area right in here. So that's been built, and then the park and
No,
ride
did you-
lot is
No,
been
did you hear what I asked?
I think I did, and
No, I said, if we do approve it, does it have to come back to us?
not
for
unless
any
they
reason.
amend the preliminary master development plan.
Okay, that's
All
it.
of
That's
these
all I
will
want to know.
go
Okay,
for planning commission review for a final master development plan.
okay, all right. I'm sorry. Go
Okay.
ahead, April.
Now, April.
No, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I just want to build on what Bill mentioned in the SP. If you're looking at the SP document, we have section 4, 5, and 6, which go into detail into architectural design standards, landscaping and parking, screening, and then it being a form-based code, have a build to line rather than setbacks that we're developing to. This type of development specifically in the village center is going to feel different than what's been built around it. And specifically, we've built in additional design standards to make this an above and beyond what Gallatin requirements would be in wanting to make this a high density walkable district. And the only thing that's been developed thus far, like Bill had said, there are a few roads and then the park and ride stop. So we're trying to build off of that and make this what we would like to see happen in some of those graphics that we have as examples. In order to do that, we need high density and a mixture of horizontal and vertical uses. If you look in detail in the architectural design standards, we've set standards for what the streetscape at the building level where pedestrians enter into and out of would look like. Bill touched on that there's several different types of streetscapes applications like porches, stoops, and storefront. So we're envisioning a lively streetscape and trying to create something that would be a high density walkable district. I've got a couple examples that I'd like to share. Bill, do I just hit the share screen button at the bottom and then y'all can see what I'm looking at?
I believe that would you would take over. That would be up to the Jeff to assign you that.
Go ahead, April.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can you all see this image? It's a Google aerial.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This is, let me go to my notes. This is Norton Commons in Prospect, Kentucky, just outside of Louisville. And this was one of the example projects that's built that we were using as our inspiration when we designed the pattern book for Greensboro TRD. And as you can see, we've got on-street parking, lots of open space that's designed that's pedestrian friendly. You've got different types of style of architecture, mixture of uses on the main floor with mixture of possible residential units above. The buildings are addressing the street. They come right up to the right of way. You've got several different types of fencing and low walls, landscaping, addressing the street. You've got street furnishings. You've got lots of fenestration, which we actually have required above and beyond what the normal Gallatin code regulations would permit. Again, mixture of uses on corners, landscaping. So just to give you an example, this is one. as I pan through here. Another would be Market Commons in Arlington, Virginia. And again, if you look at the streetscape, we've got different types of pavement. We've got boulevards landscaped. We've got site furnishings within the pedestrian throughway. We've got stoops and lots of fenestration on the ground floor level. Mixture of buildings at the building liner. And then another example is in Bethesda, Maryland. This is another built project that's a TOD. Again, if you're looking at the streetscape, we're wanting to make it a lively, walkable, vibrant area is what we envision for the village center, which is the area that we're asking to include into the SP.
Is there any questions for April?
So this looks like it's a city within itself.
Yes. So that's the premise of what we're trying to create, is something that would be unlike what's around it, a more dense, walkable, centered around transit development.
Do we know what kind of transit to expect?
Currently, right now, it's a park and ride, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, it's a BRT. It's on a BRT line, which is bus rapid transit, which means it's bus, but they have fewer stops in between, and it allows pedestrians to get to their destinations a little bit faster. But there is a park and ride for the BRT right now, and I think it was at one time, I think, planned that it could become transit oriented in the far near future. Is that correct, Bill?
Bill, you're muted.
Yes, that's correct. The plan did show that it's possible that at some future time that maybe a trolley or shuttle of some sort could go the length of Greenlee Boulevard and possibly Nashville Pike and connect into the college.
These are very pretty places, but I don't see any 8-story buildings. What would be in those 8-story buildings?
You would have a mixture of, if you look at the chart that we have in the SP, there's several different types of uses, and we're trying to leave it open so that when development happens, we're not saying, okay, that it has to be this or it has to be that. I could see a mixture of business, retail, commercial, with some residential on the top 3 to 5 stories. So you could even have a building liner. So your stores on the streetscape edge with a parking garage behind, and then apartments wrapping that. So it could be a mixture of different types of uses in that 8 stories. But that would mostly be what's along the boulevard, not the entire 47 acres that we're asking to add to this.
Chief Williams, does our fire department have the means to keep an 8-story building safe?
I don't think Chief's here, but I think Robert Ritchie's here.
Chief Ritchie?
Yes, ma'am. We should be able to. We've got a ladder 2. It's 75 foot tall, 75 foot length, and the ladder truck uptown, the tandem axle job, it's 100 foot.
April, as you know, of course, here in the last few months, of course, we've got hammered pretty hard as far as the city council concerned on apartments and things, and of course all the comments and stuff right here. And I know, part of this property is already zoned to put apartments and stuff on it, but everybody's thinking that because we changed this, that we're going to go and put 500 apartments on this piece of property.
So you're saying, just making the statement that apartments are everyone's main concern? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, because folks nowadays, because we have so many recently, they're all against us approving any apartments.
I will say this, that the SP If it's the style apartments that you're concerned about, that are similar to what we would call a traditional garden style apartments, that's an example of what's already there is the Edison. This SP would not permit something like the Edison to be developed here because of the parking requirements, the architectural style requirements, the streetscape build to line requirements. This would look and feel different than what you're thinking of a traditional garden style apartment would feel like.
So there's a chance there could be condominiums or something else over top of this retail, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think
I have-
people are also concerned about the number of cars being added to our traffic and kids in schools and et cetera. So
If
how
I
much,
might interject here, Councilman Love, this is James Fenton, Economic Development. First, we need to realize that this is what was originally planned for this area, was approved many, many years ago. And the fact is that the design that they're bringing forward truly will reduce a lot of that traffic because it is a transit-oriented development. And the fact is, if we allow some of this more dense development, it reduces the city's long-term liabilities. And I'm speaking about roads in particular. And Dustin out of our planning department just had a great article published that expresses that and talks about the cost of the long-term liability for roads and those kind of things. This kind of development reduces that liability for the city long-term. And I think that's one of the things we look at. What they're talking about now truly does develop hubs where our citizens and I think we need to remember that over the last 5 years, we've been growing at an average of 183 people a month. Okay, and that growth is not going to slow down. What we need to do as a city, my opinion, is make sure that the developments that we're approving allow for less traffic, allow for that more dense development with the multi-use to happen there in the area so that they aren't all having to drive everywhere to get what they need. And I think this is one of the few developments that have come in front of this board, this body, that truly moves forward the original vision that was placed out there on this. And I know that multifamily is a bad word right now, but there are areas and that is appropriate. And I think this is one of them. And I would just ask that there be support for this. It's hard for everybody to support it. I understand that, but this is a development that will create a hub in our community that makes us ready for that transit-oriented development into the city. And so please give this due thought. Thank you.
Mr. Owen, I have one question
Go ahead, Mr. Alexander.
for Miss April. I noticed in your development, any of your development in any city have any bike lanes in it?
Say your question again.
Do any of your development in any of the city have any bike lanes for bicycles?
In their transit-oriented development?
Yes.
Yes, sir. That's one of the key component to creating these is that you add bike lanes. I know I'm not showing any on here. They're probably understood in this particular development. But yes, in our SP as well, we have accounted for bike lanes and will once we move forward with design.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I don't know if I understand this completely. So we've already been, most of this has already been approved for this type of development, and the only part we're really concerned about right now is that small area that what I understood Bill to say was supposed to be box stores
Hey,
and
Matt.
not development. Is that right? I mean, this little
This mic's off.
development is already approved and we're just adding a little bit to it?
Mr. Chairman, may I interject and ask a question, Mr. McCord, that I think will help?
Yes, Mayor.
Yeah,
Go
I was going to ask Mr. McCord if he would go back, because this plan predates so many of us. We weren't exposed to it when it was approved, and those of you who were here are probably forgotten. So I think it'd be helpful if Mr. McCord went back over that northern portion and maybe a brief overview of the whole development to explain what was actually approved, because
I have a question real quick before we start.
ahead, Mr. Fan.
What percentage is retail, what percentage is residences, and what percentage of this property is going to be open space? Is it broken down in any way?
I can answer part of that. I think 20% minimum, and I'd have to go back in the document, is slated to be open space, and that's for the whole development. After that, the breakdown is really based on the bulk standards and the uses that come in. We've set permitted and not permitted uses for each sub-district, and it's really flexible in that sense to allow developments to have a mixture, again, horizontal and vertical mixes, to create the vibrancy that we're trying to create and the density that we're trying to create.
Do you have any LOIs for this community already?
I do not.
Do you know if there is any?
I can't speak to that, to be honest.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. McCord. Mayor wanted you to review something for us.
Okay. Okay, this is the slide I showed earlier, which shows the existing approved portion of the properties to the north. And so again, this is a wedge of property south of the CSX Railroad. It's on the north side. Greenlee Boulevard bisects the property. The Gap warehouse facilities on the east side, Volunteer States on the southeast side, and then St. Blaise Road forms the north or southwest side of the property. So you may be familiar with the large, it's bean field or cornfields over the last few years that's out there now. So with the exception of the road that they built connecting St. Blaise Road and Little Drive to Enterprise Drive, and the park and ride lot for the transit lines that provide express service to Nashville, nothing else has been developed out there. They did do some drainage improvements a few years ago in association with some flood control improvements. And I believe they removed or added some material in areas down in the 40-something acres. That was just land disturbance activities. So yes, they are wanting to add this 47 acres to the south of it. And again, it's undeveloped property right now.
So let me just for the public's understanding, no matter if we approve this little pie-shaped piece of property or not, they can build what they want to build on that property that's already zoned right now.
Well, it's zoned MRO PUD, and the PUD is pretty generous. It allows for a wide variety of uses, and that was approved years ago. Yeah, this is the slide that shows what was most recently approved was the master plan for this large, over 1 million square foot shopping center. Now, that was approved in 2007, I believe. And the master plan, since nothing has been approved or built on there, no final master development plan has been approved, that is lapsed. So that would need to come back for approval if they wanted to build a big shopping center. But I think most of us realize that the economic vitality and things changed in those 15 years or so, They don't do that anymore. So it would be a waste to essentially expect something that is in the gone by days to be developed out there. So
Bill,
we need to find a more lucrative use for these properties.
Bill, make sure you talk about the multifamily and the design for those buildings. And I don't know if you have immediate access to the number of units, because I honestly have no clue what the number of units is.
I don't think it identified in the plan a specific number, a maximum number of units. As April described, it's a form-based code. So they didn't get into the details of intricate number of units. They did identify the types of units they would allow in different parts of the development. Let me see.
Bill, if I may interject here, on page 25 of the SP document, this is in the section 3 bulk standards where we describe the blocks for village center, village, and village edge. At the bottom of the page, it gives you dwelling units per acre, minimum and maximum, and that's standard density to support a TOD. And we did extensive research before we even quoted any of this in our booklet. But for village center, it's a minimum of 12 dwelling units per acre to a required maximum of 40 dwelling units per acre. And that can get really intense. And that's why we were asking for maximum stories of 8 in the village center to be able to get up to that 40. Transit has to have a certain amount of density in order for it to function correctly. And that's why we put that minimum and maximum in there for that village center, to give us the flexibility to have different mixtures of uses, horizontal and vertical. If you look at the village, it's a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 30. And then the village edge, which is our most residential like sub-district, it's a minimum of 5 dwelling units to a maximum of 15. So we're looking at very tight build-tos, side setbacks, multiple stories to allow us to get to the density needed to have this be a functioning transit-oriented development.
So back to my question.
Go ahead, Ms. Love.
Are we voting just on this added little triangle of land tonight, now, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So
we've already voted. And
they've already got
we've already passed it on first reading, so I think it's automatically going to second reading next week. We're not going to vote on anything tonight. We just want it back on our committee meeting just so we could see.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said voted, but all the rest of it is already approved. We would just are considering that one triangle.
That's correct.
So why not let them build what they can already, and then see how we like it, and then approve another little triangle there?
That's a question for Mr. McCord or April one.
Well, they proposed to build this phase, the 47 acres, in their third phase. So they will be building the properties up to the north first. They want some sort of assurance that, they're not going to be stuck with a big box, or if they come back with a big box to get reapproved, I suppose that y'all would approve that. That I think I can tell you right now, just from experience, that the big box shopping center will generate a lot more trips than the mixed use residential and commercial development that they
Lots more traffic.
This is just something totally new for Gallatin, and
oh yes, but this is the trend. I want to stress that this is what's going to happen. This is a plan for the future, not a plan for today necessarily. It's a plan for the long term in the future. When me and you and all the rest of the council are gone, this is going to be the development pattern. You see this in all of the satellite cities of large cities. So Atlanta, Indianapolis, Louisville is the example that we saw here. This is really what's being, it's occurring in Lebanon. It's occurring in Murfreesboro, Franklin. So
Linda, this transit parking lot's already built. It's already currently being used. Correct.
The bus runs to and from Nashville each day.
That's
Several
right.
buses.
I just want everybody to remember that. We built that several years ago. We all partnered with that thing and had it built several years ago. So that parking lot and the transit parking lot's already built.
But it is going to be a lot of years before there is more, before any, what I would call real transit is in place. We're not going to have a train. At best, we might have bus rapid transit. That'd be a dedicated lane thing. And I think autonomous vehicles will come before that. And I don't know how this will play out, that it will ever even make sense for Nashville or for the region to look at putting in transit once autonomy happens. It's not 20 years ago where you could look ahead and know how congestion would progress, because you have technology that's coming into play. And I think that we will see a lot of technology really impacting our travel. Hopefully we're going to have some technology impacting our travel within Gallatin soon. We get the ITS done in there. But I just don't know. Somebody's tired.
Somebody's mic's open and you're yawning, so.
Yeah.
I think that's Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, why it had to be me?
I know that I am boring, but,
Oh.
but I just think
Here.
it's not hush. It's not realistic to think that it's something that's going to happen in 10 years, because it's look at the state of Tennessee. They're not going to fund that in those years. And before any transit happens to any of the outlying areas, there would have to be some interconnectivity in downtown Nashville. And I say it's several years before they even attempt that again. And then it has to be built. So we're talking
Miss Love,
long, not in my lifetime.
So Paige is kind of proving my point. I mean, we've already got things that are coming up that were rezoned 14 years ago, and we're not really thrilled about the way they were zoned at that time. So why, if it's going to be years and years before they do anything with it, why go ahead and rezone it now?
I was just speaking to the transit piece of it. I'm not saying that this kind of development, I'm not speaking as to the wisdom of this type of development, because this type of development is consistent with what you're seeing all over the area. But we're wrestling with our growing population and demands happening all over the community for this kind of development. And I wish we could plan so much better as a city if we knew if we could guarantee the timelines in which stuff would be completed. But we can't. All we can do is say, yes, this will be allowed here. And it means this year or sometime in the next many years. And so that's why we have such a challenge at this point, because we're typically in Gallatin for so many decades, things would get approved, and then it'd take years to get the financing in place. Then it would take years to build it. Well, what we're seeing now, because we're in such a hot region, people come in here, they get something approved, they start building, and then all of a sudden we have, this many new housing units. And that's why we have grown so fast. But again, we're not growing except in an exceptional way compared to any other city in the region. Everybody's experiencing this. As long as you got people moving here from states where they have to live, this is what we're trying to navigate.
Any other questions or comments on this item?
Yes, I got a comment.
Okay,
the truth is if we don't have this type of development, we're going to be behind. We're not going to be the desirable city that I think we're going to be in the future. So if we don't keep up, we're going to get left behind. I don't necessarily like growth that much, but the truth is it's coming.
Thank you, Mr. Fain. Anybody else?
Again, we would just be adding this small area.
That's correct.
What's already there.
Correct. Go ahead, Mr. Fennell.
I was just going to point out that I want our city to be a little bit different. I don't like to being similar to Louisville or Indianapolis or any of the other large cities that was being mentioned. I would like to have our own little flavor to what we can add that would be nice.
Right.
I agree.
I step in here again, James Fenton's,
Go ahead, Mr. Fenton.
Mr. Fennell, I agree with you 100%. And this is one of the things that I think can differentiate us from other places. If we allow these small communities to develop and create that density to where we can start to attract the food service, the restaurants that we want to have, all those other things that our constituents, your constituents are asking for. You get those calls. You know how many people would like to have a nice restaurant, would like to have all those things out there. And this type of development, Mr. Fennell, I truly believe will help encourage those kinds of developments.
Thank you, Mr. Fenton. Anyone else? This will be on our agenda next week. Let's move on to item number 3. Mr. McCord and Nick Tuttle.
This is item number 3. This is a request for multimodal grant. You approved a resolution that would allow us to apply for the grant last summer. This grant would be for the purpose of building a trail, multimodal trail, which is essentially a very wide sidewalk similar to our greenway on the east side of town in front of Vol State Community College. We applied for this grant last year with TDOT and we're not accepted. So we're asking to, we asked you to allow us to apply again, and we have, and we were told by TDOT to submit an application. So it's this segment here on the map that's shown on your screen. I hope everybody can see that.
What kind of money be associated with it, Mr.?
It's a 95.5% grant, so TDOT would be covering the 95 part, and we'd be covering the 5%, which would be 50,000. And right now, we're estimating that about $1 million project, so they would cover $950,000 of that. So
is there a motion to send it to council?
Are you just asking our permission?
Yes.
To apply for the grant.
Resolution that you would approve next week.
I'll make a motion. We send it on to council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made properly second. Any other discussion? Ms. Kittredge, you call the roll to send it on to council.
Vice Mayor Camp. Vice Mayor Camp, I don't see him. No, he's here. Councilman Alexander.
Yes.
Councilman Fan.
Yes.
Councilman Fennell.
Yes.
Councilman Hayes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Love.
Yes.
Councilman Overton.
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Ms. Kittredge. Item number 4. Ms. Rachel Nichols.
Yes, sir. Before using an ordinance to appropriate the capital projects for the utility department for this fiscal year, when budgets were prepared and presented earlier in the year, these items were not entered into Munis, which is how we generate our report for the budget ordinance. They had been presented in the 5-year capital plan, but they just weren't entered into Munis, and this is simply to get those projects on the books and appropriated.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made properly second. Any further discussion? Ms. Kittredge, call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Camp.
He is having technical difficulties.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Alexander.
Yes.
Councilman Fan.
Yes.
Councilman Fennell.
Yes.
Councilman Hayes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Love.
Yes.
Councilman Overton.
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Ms. Kittredge. Item number 5, monthly financial reports, Ms. Rachel Nichols.
Yes, sir. In the packet are the financial reports for May through August. I apologize for May's not being presented earlier. I thought I had, and when I went to prepare these, after all of the year-end entries were made, I realized I'd left May off earlier. But now that the year has been closed and the audit, these are the reports for May, June, July, and August.
Ms. Nichols, you want to just real quickly highlight something on them for the public's knowledge?
I'll be glad to. For the year ending June 30th, On the general fund, our year-to-date revenues were exceeded by our year-to-date expenditures by $1.7 million, but that includes our depreciation cost. So overall, we had a good year. We had planned to go into our fund reserve some, and we did. So, again, we had a good year, even with the COVID activities, the lowered revenues at the golf course, civic center for programs that were canceled. But also departments did a good job of holding their costs down once that occurred. The other funds also performed well for the year. I'm happy to report that the stormwater fund, the stormwater fees that are collected covers their expenses. That's not something that the general fund has to subsidize, so to speak. So they're doing well, as is the Environmental Services Fund. I know they had quite a bit of more collections where everyone was staying home instead of going to their workplaces. And so they've had a lot more residential pickup during the COVID. And even with that, their revenues have kept pace with their expenses.
So, Ms. Nichols, we hear it all the time, how bad we're in, how bad a shape we're financially we're in from a lot of folks, but you're telling us that we're in great financial shape, and we just need to keep on doing what we're doing and watch what we're spending. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. For years, we have been very conservative with our presentations. The budgets that I present and that I recommend to the mayors over the years have been very conservative, and it has done us well over the years. We are in a good position to get through this pandemic. Hopefully it will not go on for an extended period of time, but at the moment we are holding our own very well.
Thank you very, very much. That's good news.
Thank you.
That it is.
At this time, any other business that anybody would like to discuss? Mayor, I got a question. Are we going to meet remotely next week, or are we in person next Tuesday?
That was what I was going to bring up to you all, because we are currently under gubernatorial executive orders that only allow us to meet through the end of October. It is my understanding that there is a new executive order that's supposed to be coming down that will allow us to meet virtually, will allow anyone to meet virtually through the end of the year. But it's Tuesday. Our next meeting is next Tuesday, and that order has not come down yet. So I was going to ask this council if they wanted to consider it and make a decision based upon if that order does, appear. We do have to be aware that we do have those dangerous building hearings next week, and those people have been asked to come to the building. So we will make sure that we are here and accommodate those people if they do come to the building, should you decide to continue virtually.
What's the will of the body?
I say continue virtually.
That's one. Anybody else?
If allowed.
If allowed.
So how will we know on Tuesday what?
We'll know before
time?
Tuesday, or we'll have to meet in person.
I suspect that they will come down in the next couple of days, since we're approaching the end of the month.
So what's your will, Miss Love?
I'm okay with whatever y'all decide. I'm fine doing it virtually if other people are too.
Mr. Fan?
I'm on the fence. It doesn't matter.
Mr. Alexander?
Only thing I'm concerned about, if we meet face to face, I hope we have some kind of shield to, be on the safe side and wear a mask. We don't want to preach one thing and practice something else.
Mr. Camp?
I will say that it seems like we're reaching more people doing it virtually, since we have it open by phone and Zoom meetings too.
We need to make a decision. Somebody needs to.
I said virtual.
Is that a motion to do it if the executive order comes out?
Yes, sir.
You all, if that is a motion, do you want to set a date for us to plan to continue those meetings through at this point? Or do you want to take it week to week?
I mean, we can do it. If it says through, we'll follow the executive order. If it says through the end of the year, we'll do it through the end of the year.
Is there a second to that motion?
I've got
I
a
mean,
suggestion.
realistically, we'll probably only have 5 more meetings or 6, so.
Is there a second to that motion?
I think Steve Fan started to say something.
Dave, did you say something?
Why can't we do both? If they want to show up, let them show up. If they want to stay home, let them stay home.
Well, you're seeing how it is to accommodate just 2 people in council. We would essentially have to have computers and headsets for any member of the public that wanted to participate in person.
Then I'll second virtual.
Sound like it's going to be easier on our staff if we do it virtually as long as we can.
He seconded it.
I
Is that
second it.
correct, Mayor?
I mean, we are prepared to meet in person. We have provisions that we plan to install. We do not have all of the technology that we have ordered to accommodate in-person meetings and be able to spread people throughout the building so that the chambers didn't get too crowded if a bunch of people were to show up. But
I think Steve seconded it.
Okay.
I understand that, Mr. Hayes, but the mayor's talking right now.
Oh, I didn't know if she heard him or not. I'm sorry.
She did. Go ahead, Mayor.
I just wanted to say that in response to Mr. Fan's comment. So, and we could do it, but I'm giving you that thought.
Any other discussion? Ms. Kittrell, call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Camp. Yay. Councilman Alexander,
Yes.
Councilman Fan,
Yes.
Councilman Fennell,
Yes, but I won't be here.
Councilman Hayes,
Yes.
Councilwoman Love,
Yes.
Councilman Overton.
Yes.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you.
I have one question. I need
Go
to
ahead, Mr.
address the mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Do we need to meet on election night?
Well,
I mean, but if it's important, I guess we do have to. I'm just.
yeah, we've kind of gotten ourselves. We brought it up, a month or 6 weeks ago because when we made that determination to have those dangerous building hearings on that night, we sent public notices to those people. I mean, we sent notices to those people that they had to appear on that, and we can't pull that back at this point. So we're bound by that action. I think, Ms. McCullough, you may.
Yes, we are. And I asked that question and everyone said they wanted to meet that night.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so it sounds like we're doing this. Any other business anybody has?
This isn't business really, but I've been asked what times and what days that these meetings are re-shown on TV, on cable, and I didn't know the answer to that.
Mr. Henschel could answer that for us.
On cable, we're just live. We archive on our website, long-term archive on YouTube, and we archive on Facebook as well.
Oh, people had told me that they used to see it during the week, so that's.
A long time ago they did.
We stopped.
Don't
Yeah,
do
we
it
stopped doing
anymore.
that a long
Yeah.
time ago, about several years ago.
Yeah, we did. Anything
Thank
else?
you.
Anybody? Any department head?
Yes, Councilman Overton.
Go ahead.
Just wanted to update the council that we've been working with the Rotary Club to fulfill our obligations with the Army Corps of Engineers on
I saw y'all down there working.
the tree restitution down at Liberty Branch Park. So we completed that work today, and we just got to keep the trees alive for a couple of years, and we'll fulfilled our obligation to the Corps on that.
Just keep the Rotary guys out there and don't let them cut them anymore.
No comment.
Anybody else have anything? Any other department head?
Councilman Overton, I just wanted to update the council. I was asked to research about a gas tax at the last work session. I did research that. There is no authority for us to institute our own gas tax. There is a state tax, and municipalities do receive funding from that. I have an article from MTAS that I will send to email to those of you that have an email that sets out the funding. The way that we get funded, it's fairly complicated. I did talk with Rachel Nichols, and she says that we get approximately over $1 million a year from that gas tax.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Susan.
You know what percentage we get?
We get 14.38% of the first 11 cents. It's a very complicated formula.
When you say we have no authority, is there a way to get an authority?
Through the legislature, be on the way, right, Susan?
That's correct. You can go to your
State representatives.
legislators and ask for that we have some type of exemption that we could institute our own tax. Otherwise, unless the state gives us authority to institute a tax, we have no authority to do so.
It's about like what they done on the hotel motel tax, Steve. They give us permission to do it ourselves, and we done it here. So
there is a statute on that allows that.
It's about the only tax I approve of because it's on a use basis and people coming into town also have to pay it. Right. And if they're using their roads, they're paying for it. Of course, if it got started here, it'd probably get started statewide once they seen the revenue to bring in.
Anybody else? Mr. McCord, I want to say thank you for your office. We had several signs on the right of ways and they weren't too pretty. So, I mean, there's still people going right back behind and putting them back up. But anyway, you got most of them off and I appreciate it. I just hate it that people complain because we put them up or the council that's running puts them up and then somebody goes back behind them and puts them back up. So, but I appreciate your office for.
Oh, I have not put any up. I want to clarify that.
I understand that, Mr. Fennell. I wasn't speaking about you.
Yeah. Mr. Overton, I have one more thing. One thing Ms. Hamacali said reminded me of something, and I don't know if she wants to help me address this at this time or not, but we do need to bring it up with this council. Do you want to talk about email addresses, Ms. Hamacali?
Sure, if you would like for me to do that, I can do that now. As you know, we've discussed in prior meetings that each council member should have, our IT directors talked about it in the past, should have a city email. And we are running into issues because some council members do not have a city email. When we get records requests, we are required to search your email. If you do not have a city email and you're using your personal email for city business, you're going to need to give the city permission to come and search your email. It's a liability to the city for those of you that are conducting business other than by city email if you're using email. So I just wanted to, the mayor and I have discussed that. I wanted to remind the council of that it is a liability. We are required by state law when we get records requests that ask for emails to search emails. So I suggest every one of the council members, I know that you've all been assigned a city email and that you use that email and only that email to conduct city business.
Susie, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If someone comes in and asks for public records requests, say on emails, that's actually costing us money, correct? Because we have to take time away from duties to look that up and research it.
Well, it's required by state law. If someone files a records request, that we are required by state law to conduct that search.
Well, what he's saying is it costs us a lot of money to do that, time and everything, correct, Susan?
Yes, it takes, city resources to do that. Yes, it does.
So we can, you guys keep a record of like who asked for that and how much time is spent and how much money it's costing the taxpayers?
Well, I think that depends. When we can only charge if we get copies. When a request is made for copies, you can only charge for your labor at that point. So has been the city's policy when copies are requested that whomever does the search keeps track of that. When there's a request to inspect, I can't say that we keep up with that, that we keep up with the time for that because we are not allowed by law to charge for inspection.
But I hope we're keeping up with it because there's some folks that ask for a lot of requests and I think all of us would love to know how much time our city employees are spending on some of these requests that they're asking for.
I think, Jimmy, I think Miss Ashley, Lori has kept up with some of it. I think some of that is out there in the public.
Anything else? Any other department heads? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion to miss.
Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Good.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
See y'all next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.